I've certainly been waiting for it, and I've made my displeasure with the delay, I think, very, very clear. As you know, I cannot physically produce a report without the audited data. It's been a source of my frustration, but thankfully we now have that report filed, and I have filed immediately, within 24 hours, an interim report for fiscal year 24, and we are now working towards finally getting fiscal year 25 to be on a statewide auditing system instead of individual agencies, which no other state does. We're like the only holdover of this archaic way of auditing. And so hopefully for your fiscal year 25, we'll have a brand new system that means on-time audits as it should be.
My initial thought on the release of the Illinois annual financial report is that it's a little bit late. This is for June 30, 2023. So it's more than 2 years, 770 days after the fiscal year end. All of the other states have been able to get their reports out. Most of them have 2024 out. And Illinois finally released this. We are not the last. Nevada, unfortunately, hasn't released theirs. The Auditor General he made a quote. He's quoting the Governmental Accounting Standards Board that said, if financial reports are to be useful, they must be issued soon after the reported events to affect decisions. And I think there's been a lot of decisions that have been made without this useful information. For example, budget decisions, spending decisions, borrowing decisions. But we finally got this report. We did find a shining note. We found that their what is we care about, which is their unrestricted net position, did get a little bit better. It went from a negative $205 billion to now we only have a negative $195 billion. What this number means is this is the money that future taxpayers are going to have to pay, money needed to pay the bills that the state has already incurred. We also found that the state received a qualified opinion. As accountants, we always want a government or entity to receive a clean opinion, but the state received a qualified opinion, which means that the books aren't, I think in the past they've received what we call a disclaimer. They've flunked their audit. They're a little bit better this year. They only got a qualified opinion, which means the financial statements are okay, except for one issue. And the one big issue in Illinois is the Department of Employment Securities. They were not able to get a sufficient amount of evidence to determine whether the amounts reported were accurate or not, or whether the amounts that were paid to claimants was accurate, or were those claimants even eligible for that money.
Is that important?
Well, because first of all, I think taxpayers deserve to know how their money is being spent. Our interim reports give them an idea, but it's not exact. And the credit rating agencies obviously need to know that we're managing money wisely. And the legislature, when they're crafting budgets, should be operating off of the most accurate fiscal data from the prior year. So it's really just common sense. It's unfortunate that for almost 3 decades now, the state of Illinois has produced incredibly late audits and therefore incredibly late reports. But I'm doing my part since I took office to actually change that. And I think we're finally there, hopefully in 25, fingers crossed. We'll have that first year. There might be a few hiccups, but moving forward, it should be smooth sailing.
It's very interesting. She's mentioning, would that be June 30, 2025? What about the June 30, 2024? Those are not out. Should we expect those, 2 years later, next year at this time, or are those going to be a little bit faster? The state has not had a good history on releasing these on a timely basis, and they have reached a new high in the number of days, which I would consider a new low.